Chuck, go for it.
Hello, hello. Welcome to College Aid Pro office hours. We're excited to have you here. People are a little slow to pop in, but now I see the numbers chiming in. We'll go ahead and do some quick introductions and get started here in just a minute. I'll go first since I currently have the microphone. I'm Chuck Bates. I'm a financial advisor in Houston, Texas. I've been working with College Aid Pro for going on 3 or 4 years, and I'm excited to be here. I enjoy answering financial aid questions and participating with the amazing Rinda and Dan as well. So on that note, I'll hand it off to Rinda and let her introduce herself, and then we'll jump in and walk you through the disclaimer and get some questions going.
Thanks, Chuck. I'm Rinda Wilk. I'm one of the members of the team here at College Aid Pro. I am a financial coach and specializing in college planning in close to Orlando, Florida. And I'm excited to hear your questions. Hopefully I'll be able to answer a few of them for you tonight, get you guys, where you need to be with your college planning.
And finally, I'm Dan Bissig. I have been actually using the College Aid Pro software since 2019 in my own independent college consulting practice, and have been a member of College Aid Pro, working with them since March of last year. So again, we're really excited about having you with us this evening.
Awesome. So as you can see on your screen, there's a disclaimer here. Basically what it says is Rinda, Dan, and I are going to do our best to answer your questions. We're not lawyers, tax accountants, or financial advisors, and we're not providing legal, investment, or any other tax advice, but we're going to do the best we can to answer your questions. Please keep in mind we're making the best answers we can on the limited information you're providing through chat. So we're going to do the best we can. If it's a really long or involved question or has a lot of components to it, we may suggest that you need to sign up for an hour with one of our experts. That's both for your benefit and for ours. We don't want to give you bad information, and the more information you can provide, the better the answer you're going to get from an expert with a little more time. And let's see. On that note, I think we'll go ahead and jump off and suggest you guys start firing off some questions. Please use the Q&A section and not the chat to submit all your questions. That way they get captured in the recording. Everybody will get a recording of this, and let's get somebody to kick it off for us.
Tell you what, Chuck, while we're waiting on that, let me do this too. I'll share with everybody the College Aid Pro screen here. And for those of you that may or may not know, we've got an awesome summer college boot camp that's going on right now. It's running from today through the 10th. Tomorrow, actually, I'm joining Brian Ford, one of our awesome college admissions experts, but he and I are doing a presentation on applications and essays. And so I invite you to join us. It's at 12 noon tomorrow. Again, you would go to the collegeaidpro.com website. If you click on this little register now button, it'll give you the ability to still sign up for that. And by the way, if you missed the first day's sessions, no worries. You can always send an email to support@collegeaidpro.com. And that'll go ahead and give you some, or give you the ability to ask for that recording. Okay.
And we have our first question. So, Rinda, how do you feel about ladies going first?
Sure, why not? Let's see. This person is asking how do grad plus loans compare to undergrad plus loans. I assume you're talking about the parent plus loans for undergraduates. I was just looking up the interest rate so I could give you the current. The direct plus loans, parents and graduate or professional students can take those out. So the rate right now is 7.54%. And one way that they differ from the typical student undergraduate student loans is that they're not limited in the amount that the grads can take every year, like the undergraduate student loans are. I'm not sure if that was kind of what you want. You guys want to throw any other comparisons in there with mine?
think, you know, they have higher origination fees. If you're a freshman, you're limited to 5,500 on the, you know, federal direct student loan. And on the graduate plus, like Brenda said, it can be what, to the full cost of attendance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just be aware of the higher origination fees. Dan, anything else?
Nope, that's, I mean, both of those are right on.
So we would love to know where you guys are dialing in from. If your students are going to be seniors, or if you happen to have a student who's leaving for college any day, let us know where they're going. You know, if you have whatever your biggest concern is, go ahead and put that in the chat. We'd love to hear where you guys are from. If you've already used the College Aid Pro MyCAP software, we'd love to know that. And if not, we'll give a quick demo of that and how it can be helpful as well.
Well, we've got, oh, there's another question.
All right. You want that one, Danny, or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So are virtual volunteer hours or other activities conducted in person where we can't track or verify them? Do colleges go through each one of them and verify? Do they come back and ask to provide proof? Yeah, so this is a good question. I'm happy to take this admissions question or the application question. They're not going to come back and check. This is the honor system, folks. But at the same time, don't do what a young man tried to do a few years ago, where suddenly he was the captain of like 5 teams. And he thought it was really cool that he was, I'm just going to put down that I'm the captain of the soccer team and the basketball team and all this other kind of stuff. Have some integrity with it, please. You know, it's a situation where there's nothing wrong with putting down hours if they're legit, but don't make things up just thinking that you're going to inflate your application. I'm confident that he didn't get into a couple of schools because the admissions people probably looked at that and go, really? I mean, you know, the way that I put it is this: when it comes to your activities, it's better that you have a couple of things that you've done very narrow and that the students have been very focused on than this, what I call the scattergram, you know, of doing a variety of things. So just be careful about that. Again, no verification. So they won't come back and ask for proof, but just do it with integrity. Make sure that you're putting legitimate things down there as far as trying to guess the hours and things that have gone on.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're here for you. So come on with the questions. This is going to be a short night. Oh, we got some stuff in the chat, guys. So this is great. We'll take a look at it, but please make sure and type the questions in the Q&A box, not the chat, but we'll take a swing at this. Rising Senior questions. Can you only submit the Common App once, or can you send it out to some schools, some schools earlier and others later? So yeah, you can always go back and add schools to the Common App, right? There's not much challenge with that. If they, now Dan, I'll let you comment on that. If they're doing early action or sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but you know what
Early
I mean.
decision.
Early decision. Thank you. You know, are there any schools that are going to require their actual own application versus the Common App? What kind of advice would you give around that?
Well, I mean, I always start with the Common App. So if you've got the ability to use one application to apply to multiple schools, it's a win-win. But there's no doubt, Chuck, you're right on. There are some schools out there that have their own application. Georgetown University, for example, you got to use their own application to apply to the school. So just do your research and definitely work on things. The one thing I will tell you that's kind of interesting, and I'm not promoting this, but I've had folks before say, well, should I take and make my Common App essay unique to the college that it's going to? And I say, yes, until you make the mistake of sending the wrong essay to the wrong college. And then you're going to regret that ever happened. So just be careful with it. The better idea would be just to use a universal Common App essay. And then in those special cases where you've got a special essay that you've got to write, supplemental essay, that's where you can really shine as far as talking about the individual school. So just be careful.
Brenda, anything to add there?
Nope, I think you guys covered it.
I'm going to take this other one only because they're from Houston. So let's hear it for HTX. Senior, getting enough financial aid and our scholarships are my biggest concerns. Well, Cameron, you're in the right spot. Make sure you're using the College Aid Pro software. If I had to give everybody on the call one piece of advice, and I'd love for Dan and Renda to chime in, it's your school list is going to decide what you pay for college more than any other factor. So use that advanced search. Find schools that are generous with aid given your financial situation or your student's academic situation, and build your list accordingly. I'd never tell you not to go to, the best school you can get into, but I would tell you, not to go to a school you can't afford. Transfers are really expensive. They can be between $15,000 and $30,000, I think is the most recent statistics I'm seeing. So use the advanced search, put in your full profile, make sure you're looking for schools that are going to have the lowest net cost that meet your, financial, academic, and social goals. And I think you'll find that there are lots of schools out there for every student. So.
Yeah, I like to talk about my recent experience. My son, who's getting ready to leave this week for his sophomore year in college, when we started looking for schools for him, of course, I was already in this industry, and I just decided as a fun, activity to see what it would be like if I didn't have MyCAP to use to try and figure out how much schools would cost our family for him to attend. And let me tell you, it's a nightmare. I mean, I was so frustrated. I was like, there's got to be a way to figure this out. And it was really, really hard and frustrating. And of course, I just gave up and went back to using the tried and true MyCAP software. So that's just a word to say, if you haven't upgraded, it is really and truly worth every penny to upgrade, at least to the, the full software package.
Where do you want to take the next one, since it was a follow-up on the grant?
Yes. So are there any cheaper options for graduate school loans than those PLUS loans? Probably. You can always compare the private student loan market with the PLUS loans and see what is being offered. My guess is you'll be able to find something with a little bit better rate, depending on your circumstances. But it certainly never hurts to do your research and make sure you're getting the best option.
I just threw a link to Juno in the chat. It's kind of a crowdsourcing option that some people have had success with. Not everybody, but it's worth a look. And then obviously any of the private loans that Renda mentioned. But I think join Juno if you have potentially, a unique situation. Has been a pretty good place for people to look. So keep that in mind.
Chuck, why don't you take the next one?
All right. My daughter was recently accepted to a university. Would you help review the financial aid package and see if you can advise us on anything we can ask them? So I guess I just want to check on this. Is your daughter going to be attending school like in a couple days or a week? Or is she going to be a senior in high school and has already received her first acceptance? If it's the first one where you're going to be attending school in a day or a week, I mean, we'd be happy to look at it and do our best, but that is a little late in the process. I don't know if Dan and Renda have an opinion on that, but when you're that close to walking in the door, it becomes pretty challenging. We can obviously make recommendations for the upcoming year and different things like that. If you're a senior in high school and that's your first acceptance and you'd like us to do that, then I think there'd be a lot we could probably provide insight and answers to. So I hope that helps. And to do that, I'll just go ahead and share my screen. If you're already a MyCAP subscriber, once you're here, you can just click on, can you see my cursor up here on the right, talk to an expert? You can click on there and select somebody from the drop down, and they'll be happy to walk you through that. So that's how you would do that if you're interested in getting a little extra help.
Yeah, and to that extent, by the way, you can use the discount code OH15. So O for office, H for hours, the number 15 all together, and that will give you a discount so that you can get a 15% discount off of that meeting. Okay, can you speak to test optional? When should we submit scores? How can you tell from one school to another how much they value test scores? Great question. Number one, I will say this, if you go into each college, into the more information details, you'll be able to see the admissions details. And what I always suggest, and I bet you Renda and Chuck would agree with me on this, is right there where they're pointing, or where Chuck's pointing, the numbers we're showing there are the middle 50% test scores. And so for it to be a good test score to submit, you want to make sure that you're in the top 25%, or at least that the test scores match the GPA, of your student. If not, and the school's test optional, don't submit it. The only other thing I will tell you is that, of course, there are some colleges where you have to submit test scores. If you're going to, for example, the Florida public schools, you must submit test scores. Some of the more competitive schools out there, the MITs of the world, you have to submit test scores. Purdue, for example, started requiring test scores again. So you've got to know each individual school as to whether they're required in general, regardless of where your score is. So do your homework on that, and I promise you that'll pay off for you.
Yeah, make sure and use the information in CAP. It's super easy to find for any school. That'll give you a good idea on what to submit. I didn't mean to cut you off, Renda.
Nope, you didn't cut me off.
All right, follow up that. If you're waiting for a certain achievement, i.e. Eagle Scout, to come through, should I just wait to submit the Common App to all schools that take it until that comes through, or add it later? I'm going to defer that one to Dan on the admissions question. I have an opinion and I'm happy to share it, but I'll do it after Dan.
I personally think that you really, well, number one, you can't add things to the Common App after you submit it. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so what you may have to do is put in there the date of when, so like if you're trying to get in before a specific deadline, I would submit something in there that talks about like the Eagle Scout, and then put a date in there as to when the actual project is going to be completed. So it's better to get it in there than not to have it in there, but I don't think it makes sense to take credit for something that you haven't done. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree.
I'll go ahead. Let me take this one. Supplemental essay. Do you guys suggest making a one generic essay like Common App essay and modify for each colleges? Thank you. So number one, so the Common App itself has a maximum 650 word essay that is submitted to all the colleges. And I would say that that should be the generic that's used. And it's on 1 to 7 essay topics. And so, again, I think that a student ought to write that. It ought to be usable for all the colleges. And then you're going to find that with some of the schools, for example, I was helping a student today with the University of Cincinnati, and the University of Cincinnati says, why do you want to study what you want to study? And I always suggest also, and at the University of Cincinnati, for example, go ahead and put that in there. But sometimes colleges will split those. Why do you want to come to our school? And why do you want to study what you want to study? That's your opportunity to really give specific direction as to why you're, applying to the school and what really stands out. And by the way, the student better have some examples, not just that they happen to have a Starbucks on campus or a Chick-fil-A or whatever it is that attracts them. So keep the Common App, and use those supplementals to really stand out from the rest of the crowd.
And on the supplemental essays and different things like that, I'm just looking, we had a note from one of our other college aid pros, Brian Ford, who mentioned some things coming out. Stanford this year, to apply to Stanford, they're requiring 9 additional essays. So keep that in mind as you're writing essays, right? Like, you don't want to kind of cross-pollinate the essays, or maybe in some cases it does make sense to, but to keep 9 essays straight and consistent is going to be a challenge. So, school by school, keep those things in mind. Sounds like there's a lot more kind of basic and shorter essays coming out this year. USC is now asking students what their favorite movie is, what their dream trip is, which famous person or fictional person would be their ideal roommate. And so just lots of different things. And you know, a lot of them are, oh, have to be done in less than 100 words. So, you know, just be aware of things like that.
All right, I'll take the next question here. When do students usually get their financial aid scholarship offers? Well, financial aid / scholarship offers. So you should expect that to come after you've gotten notification about your acceptance letter or notification. How long after that is going to vary from school to school, but I would be reading the admissions website pages carefully. They often kind of talk about those things on there, what you can expect, look in the FAQs and stuff. And I'll tell you, having, again, a 19-year-old living in my home, the kid, you cannot depend on the students always. Now, I won't say this about your students. My student, you cannot always depend on them to read all this stuff fully. Like, they read the headline and they think they know the whole story. So you need to get in there yourself, probably, and prompt maybe with them and read all the details about the admission sites, so you're well informed with all these things.
Good answer. I love the way you talk about your student. My daughter would be mortified if she knew I ever mentioned her on here. I may make her make a guest appearance one day.
Oh, there you go.
So the person who was asking about reviewing your financial aid, it looks like it is in 3 weeks. So, you know, I think any of us would be happy to do that review with you, but I just want to set a very fair expectation. Does that seem reasonable, guys? I mean, this late, it's going to be awfully tough. Obviously, we can make suggestions for next year. If there's something dramatically wrong, you know, you might be able to appeal. But think of it this way also, right? A school has a limited financial aid budget, and they may have given it out for the entire year, regardless of how your situation has changed or what information was, you know, not included. So again, I think we'd all be happy to help you out and do our best, but this late in the game, it's going to be tough. And I'll take the next one. It says, what are all the financial data that I need to have together to make use of your financial planning tools? So I'm going to paste a list in the chat. I don't know what it's going to look. Oh, it must have been too big. Let me try one more time. I may have to break it up. See if this works. Okay. So there's some of it. Any budget considerations would be helpful. Budget considerations. And then there's some academic information and family information that would also be helpful. So sorry to break that up into so many pieces, and I know it's really long, but that should be pretty comprehensive in terms of what you need to complete a profile in MyCAP. And we can kind of, MyCAP. So if we go to the profile here, just to give you an idea. So it's going to ask current situation, parents' name, student's name, high school year, class rank, class size, major, different things, GPAs, test scores, and then start to ask students information, parents information, earnings, do they own a home equity, stuff like that. So that will give you a start, but if you get your profile to 100% complete, the software will work very effectively.
Okay, I'm just copying every stuff so everybody can see it here, Chuck. I think I did that. There you go.
Oh, because I didn't send it to everyone.
Yeah, but they've got it now. All right,
Okay.
Good deal. Okay, so there's a follow-up here asking about, again, those wild and crazy test scores. you know, we've read everywhere that the top 50% might be good, good target for submitting scores to some elites, Rice or Emory. Do you have any thoughts on that? Perhaps for elite schools, we want to submit anything in the top 50%. Thoughts? Look, here's the deal. Are there students that get into Emory and Rice without any test scores? Yes. What I can't tell you is what percentage. That might be something that you could either reach out to their admissions department and ask them, or try to do a Google search and hope that you get a trustworthy resource that'll give that kind of detail to you. You know, the thing you have to realize is if you're giving them a 50% score, then of course there's a whole lot of kids ahead of your student that likely have higher scores. And granted, with the more competitive colleges, it's not uncommon for students to submit scores. But again, if it complements your student's GPA, I say do it. If it doesn't complement their GPA, let's say that you've got a student who has a 4.0 unweighted GPA, but they've got a 27 ACT score trying to apply to an Emory or to a Rice. If they're going to give them the same consideration with the 4.0 unweighted GPA, I would say go for it. And then that really ties back to the next part of your question, which is, if a student is applying to a college test optional, you have to know that what they're going to do is they're going to do a holistic review of the application. Meaning, the essays are going to count, the letters of recommendation are going to count, the activity section is going to count. And in addition to that, the rigor of the curriculum that they've taken is going to count. Meaning a 4.0 unweighted, that where a student took no advanced placement or international baccalaureate classes, is going to be way different than a student who took all kinds of APs. And so it's going to matter to those colleges that your student has taken that kind of rigor, specifically, again, Emory or Rice. They really, really want to see that type of a student when it comes to the application process. That will help. But remember, those AP scores, you can self-report them in the Common App, but they're not going to even be sent to the school until to the final school that the student selects. And so that's going to be a future thing that's going to be taken into consideration. So that's my approach to it, my thinking on it. If it enhances your student, go for it. If it doesn't, then, you know, apply without it. And then just, you know, have your student have an outstanding essay and letters of recommendation and everything.
All right.
Yeah,
The next question is also kind of an more from the admissions academic side. Oh, it's gone.
I think Dan thought he answered it.
Actually, I think I answered it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Why don't you take the next one, Renda?
Let's see. Student took ACT and SAT once, received a good score on ACT of 35. Is it okay to submit the ACT only? Thank you. Dan?
Absolutely it is.
That's what I was thinking, but
you better believe it.
Take the ACT.
Yeah. The good news is, you know, there was a time when the more elite colleges really expected to see an SAT score, but that changed years ago. As a matter of fact, the ACT got a lot more prominence. And so those colleges will take ACT or SAT. It doesn't matter. They're good with either one.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say 35 out of 36 is better than good. It's bordering on great or fantastic. So that's totally just my opinion.
No, you are so right about that. Yeah. Anything above a 33 or 34 on that is outstanding. Yeah.
That's all the questions for the moment. I'm going to throw one more thing out there for the person asking about the Rice and Emory and stuff. And somebody else asked about does school value test scores or GPA more. So here in Houston, we have an organization of Houston area recruiters for all the schools nationwide. They live and work in Houston and recruit from this area to get kids to go to schools to Oregon, Ole Miss, Austin College, all over the country. And what I found is they are your best resources. If you want to know if a school values test scores more than grades or grades more than test scores, or you know, where to what to emphasize, those are going to be your best resources locally. They are employees of the schools, and it's their job to facilitate getting great students into the school. So they're going to give you, the best insight they can. So look, whatever area of the country you're in, see if there's a recruiters network that you can find and reach out to those recruiters. If you can't find the local one, go to the school's website and look there for the recruiters and, that cover your state, and reach out to them directly. That would be my suggestion on that.
All right. Well, we've had some good questions tonight.
Yeah.
This could be a short night, folks. Anything else going on in the college world, Brenda or Chuck, that you think we need to bring up, talk about? I mean, other than our fantastic boot camp that's going on, we do have another question that popped in here. So,
Paul, I'm going to skip to the second question. Paul, what part of the country are you in?
there you go, Chuck.
Okay, so I would start, since you're in Fort Worth, I would start here. I'll put it in there, www.theharn.org. That is the one in Houston, but I know at least probably 50% of them live in Dallas, but recruit in Houston. So you can look on there, and I will share that with everyone. And then I'm Googling right now to see if I can find like Rice University recruiting on their website, and see if I can do anything with that. Give me a minute. And then if somebody else wants to take that other question.
I was trying to see if I could understand it. There's a question here about MyCAP having an advanced search based on ED1, ED2, or EA college list.
I assume that means early decision or early action.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dan, do you think you understand the question? I'm not sure.
I do. You have to remember something. Yeah. Here's what I would say to you. Remember, our software is focused on what? Affordability. Mm-hmm. It's focused on merit money and affordability. It's not focused on admissions at all. Even though we give you some admission stats that are on there, it's not designed to help you figure out which schools you should be applying to, ED1, ED2, or EA, or even what the chances are. So we're just providing you some extra value-added stats. So that's the answer, I think. That's what I would say. I'm taking it to the bank.
There you go. I will not argue.
So I found a link for some recruiting information from Rice that I put in the chat. It's probably not ideal, but it's a good start. But basically just go to each school and look it up.
Okay.
Well, give you another minute or two, and then
we'll give it another minute, and then we'll wrap up for the night.
Oh, if we end this early, I might get to go get ice cream with my family.
Hey, there you go.
You should do that no matter what. Yeah. My son, speaking of ice cream, my son is 11 and he might have to have his tonsils out. And when he asked the doctor, is it true you get ice cream? And the doctor's response was, you can have all the ice cream you want. And he goes, when can I have them out?
Fantastic. Yeah, I remember that was the gimmick Mom and Dad used with us too, back in the day. All the ice cream you could have.
All right. Well, no new questions or chat came in. So I want to encourage everybody to, if you haven't already subscribed to the software and used it to help build your school list, to look for scholarships, to find, schools that are the most financially, agreeable to your family and your student situation. It's going to be the best thing you can do. It's a very low cost for a huge return on investment. If you have other questions, keep dialing into office hours or use the Ask an Expert. There's nobody better than Rinda or Dan, so they should be your first choice. They're amazing, and we appreciate your guys' time, and look forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks.
Night, everybody. Take care.